But okay. I don't know. My microphone just wanted to be unplugged and plugged back in. Sometimes that works. It is not just you, producer Joanna. Congratulations, everybody, on being first. That's how I make it up to you. Rather a slow news day, if I understand correctly. There's a little shadow behind me here. I don't know what... Oh, I see why. This is the big news of the day, in case you haven't heard. I got this. Hold on. Oh my god. Ah! Shit. Oh. That is a skate sharpener. Thank you to the generosity of many people out there, including Marcy, who I don't see in here yet, and super producer Debbie, who I do not see in here yet. Thank you very much, everybody. It arrived today. I just went to pick it up at Walgreens. It's not from Walgreens. It's a FedEx place at Walgreens. That is the skate sharpener. Hello, 0766-321-4879. Good to see you in here. So much happened today. There's no good. There's no good with the George Floyd thing. George is gone. He's dead. I am amazed at the response I am seeing from the right that this wasn't a fair trial. This was all political. Somehow making it President Biden's fault that the guy who kept his knee on the neck and back of a human being for 3 minutes after the guy no longer had a pulse is guilty. Joe Biden's fault. That's who it is. The man who does not have his faculties. The man who is a puppet of the left-wing mob. Somehow it's his fault. You'd think they would let this one go. The guy is on video the entire episode of him murdering a human being. Joe Biden's fault. Sit this one out. That's what I'm saying. Yes, I know you're a big mustache fan. I know you're an aficionado of the handlebar. But let's not go too crazy with Hitler. That's all I'm saying. Derek Chauvin sentenced to administrative leave without pay, David. That is justice. Shouldn't even joke. There's no good here. It is good that Derek Chauvin was convicted on all 3 counts, as it should be. He will probably appeal. It is good that bail was immediately revoked, that he is in jail right now. I honestly don't know how long he will last in jail. I imagine he's going to be under some sort of special protection and or solitary confinement. I don't know. I have never been to prison in 3 years. So it's good to see everybody here. Let's see. Is JoJo in the room? Producer Joanna henceforth wants to be known as JoJo. So producer JoJo I saw in here earlier. LP's in here. Hi, Phyllis. Good to see you. Stephanie, Chuck, nice to see you in here as well. Let's do this. Let's start things off by talking about Teletubbies. Or we can watch the president from today reacting to the conviction. Let's make it louder for you guys because it's C-SPAN. Let's do that. And then we'll
President
do this.
Harris spoke about the guilty verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial, calling the jury's decision, quote, a step forward. Their address.
I was showing you earlier, well, my microphone decided not to cooperate. This is a Kinder Egg. What you can do is put the peanut butter, cover the part of the Kinder Egg that is not peanut butter, cover it with some peanut butter, and now you have like a hazelnut peanut butter combination made completely from Kinder, which I believe is German for lamb or goat, baby goat. So whatever these are made from, it's either baby lamb or baby goat. You can combine that with peanut butter, and it's delicioso. That is also German.
From the White House is about
Maybe.
15 minutes.
Go ahead. Here we go. Whoa!
How's that for an entrance?
I am amazed that is not all over Fox News right now. Why are they not mocking Kamala Harris for missing a step? When Joe Biden did it on an air... Oh my God! He's falling on it. He's not in control of his faculties. You know who's really running things? Kamala Harris! Let's go back and watch this again. Here she comes. She's gonna up. Is she gonna... Oh, who's running the country?
Good evening. First, I want to thank the jury for their service.
This is
And
really
I wanna
quiet
thank
for you guys.
Mr. Floyd's family.
Hold on, I'm gonna pump it up. C-SPAN is always unpredictable. Give me a second here. And I will pump this baby up to like 460%, and then we'll see what happens. Yeah?
For your steadfastness. Today, we feel
Steadfastness, but okay. Here we go.
a sigh of relief. Still, it cannot take away the pain. A measure of justice isn't the same as equal justice. This verdict brings us a step closer, and the fact is, we still have work to do.
Thank you. Last Best Homes. Last Best Homes. I almost read that as Last Best Ones. That's something that I say when there's a few chips left in the bag. I want the last best ones. The ones that aren't all crumbly. What I do is, when I make my nachos, I make them with the scoops. So you got yourself a scoop. Let's just pretend this is a scoop so you can load the stuff in there, and then when you eat, it's just a vehicle for the cheese, right? And the guac. So I like the scoops, but then towards the end of the bag, or if the bag's been squished, a lot of the scoops aren't so scoopy anymore. Nope. Not for me. Not worth my time.
We still
But Last Best Ones and/or Last Best Homes pointed out he really liked the way that Joe Biden stepped forward to aid her. You know, the guy who's not even there. The guy who doesn't even know he's alive. Joe Biden doesn't know he's even breathing. A young lady stumbles. Joe Biden steps forward to offer aid and/or comfort. As one does. There must be a situation like this where Trump did nothing. Did Melania take a face fall at some point, just planted it, and Trump's like, where's the umbrella? I can't think of one right now because honestly I'm obsessed with the hazelnut peanut butter goat combination.
must reform the system. Last summer, together with Senator Cory Booker and Representative Karen Bass, I introduced the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. This bill would hold...
Did anyone miss that? Because I can go back and watch that again if somebody wants to see that. I assume everybody saw that.
...law enforcement accountable and help build trust between law enforcement and our communities. This bill is part of George Floyd's legacy. The President and I will continue to urge the Senate to pass this legislation, not as a panacea for every problem, but as a start. This work is long overdue. America has a long history of systemic racism, Black Americans, and Black men in particular, have been treated throughout the course of our history as less than human. Black men are fathers and brothers and sons and uncles and grandfathers and friends and neighbors. Their lives must be valued in our education system, in our healthcare system.
This is from earlier
in
today.
our housing system, in our economic system, in our criminal justice system, in our nation. Full stop. Because of smartphones, so many Americans have now seen the racial injustice that Black Americans have known for generations. The racial injustice that we have fought for generations.
Wait, hold on, guys.
That my parents...
I don't know how anyone's watching this because the software says we're all offline. You're still there. Hold on just a second here. I want to check out, see if I can figure out what's happening with this. Yeah, we may not be live on Twitter. No, Last Best Homes is on Twitter right now. I don't know what's going on with the software together. As long as you guys can see and hear, I'm a happy man. Sorry, back to Kamala.
Parents protested in the 1960s, that millions of us, Americans of every race, protested last summer. Here's the truth about racial injustice. It is not just a Black America problem or a people of color problem. It is a problem for every American. It is keeping us from fulfilling the promise of liberty and justice for all. And it is holding our nation back from...
If she had said liberty and bibberty for all, I would have given her $100 right now.
...realizing our full potential.
This is why I can't be vice president.
We are all a part of George Floyd's legacy. And our job now is to honor it and to honor him.
That's what we should do. We should start a GoFundMe page where we offer to donate $100,000 if at some point during his presidency, Joe Biden says the phrase, liberty bibberty. I bet we get there. I bet we get to $100,000. If Joe Biden says publicly, liberty bibbity, we donate that $100,000 to like the SPCA or some sort of adoption fund or whatever.
And now it is my great honor to introduce the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Would you guys donate to that GoFundMe? Because I would. I would donate $100 to that if for Joe Biden to say liberty bibberty. And, well, liberty, of course, you're in. They are, the CDC has come out and said that surfaces are probably not a main vector of COVID. They're still cleaning things off to be just on the safe side, which is good. Everybody up there has been vaccinated, by the way. Can I just say, if you haven't gotten yourself vaccinated, do it. I was just over at the Walgreens picking up the old skate sharpener here. Oh, God! There it is! Right there! I look awfully red today. I must have gotten some sun. Why does my left arm hurt? I was over at the Walgreens there, and I had my mask on, of course. I'm going to continue wearing the mask until they tell us not to wear the masks. You know, because puppet control. And I did not feel any angst at all in the store. I've been vaccinated. Like, I'm just not going to catch it. I went and played Netsing today with my friend John, who I posted about the other day on Twitter. Somebody else had posted about him on Facebook. His cousin posted about him on Facebook. John and his family are in the United States because of what Adolf Hitler did to Jews in Germany. And I got to play tennis with him today. He's leaving. He's been stuck here since the pandemic started because he's got to be 75, 77, somewhere in that range. And really, that's the age group for me in netsing. That's how good I am at tennis. Any younger than that, I don't have a shot. But I was able to visit with him and his wife and their daughter and son, and Panda was there. Producer Joanna came and played with us as well. And everybody was able to visit without their masks on because everyone's been vaccinated. It's so freeing. And I'm talking to you Canadians out there. Get yourself vaccinated. What are you waiting for? Come on, people. It's a wonderful feeling. And I am grateful to Operation whatever, or Operation Rap Speed, or whatever, and to the FDA, and to Pfizer, and to Moderna, to the scientists that have been working on the mRNA for the last 20 years. Thank you, because this isn't the last pandemic we're going to have. And just, if you do the math and the modeling based on what happened 100 years ago, what happened this year, 1917, according to Trump. So let's say 103 years ago. And then what happened this year, the way that society has evolved, the way that we transport ourselves all over the planet, the number of people on the planet doubling every 10 years. We are going to have another pandemic, and it's not going to be that long. So thank you to science. Thank you to the vaccines. Completely apropos of nothing. But certainly, I'm more willing to talk about that right now than I am about the George Floyd trial. I just am. I want to call it the George Floyd trial. I don't want to say the other guy's name. I don't want to say the murderer's name. I already said Adolf Hitler, one murderer per show. That's my limit. Stephanie says, I'm hoping when I go to my next surgery on May 4th, that if they put me in the hospital, that they won't make me keep putting my mask on when they walk in the room. We've both been vaccinated. You and the doctors. You know what? Especially in your weekend state, it's a 90% vaccine. Wear it. You're in a hospital environment. There's all kinds of air circulating in there. Like, there's still a 10% chance that if there is a COVID infection in the room, you can catch it. Hopefully you won't be sick. Very, very low odds of getting sick, but you might as well. Somebody said something that I missed. Hold on. I can't get to this broadcast because the software says it doesn't exist. Give me a second here, guys. See if I can, what if I click on this link here? I want to be able to keep up with the chat, but it's moving too quickly for me. You guys and your talking. Lizzie said something and producer Jojo said, oh my God. So read back up the chat yourselves, guys. I can't see it. Hold on. Our local clinic is building a permanent virus triage facility. A big one. Good. Jojo says un-effing believable. I'm not sure. The convicted killer of George Floyd. I agree with that. Lizzie said something at some point. My boss and other workers think it's a hoax. Yeah, the COVID. Yeah. There's just those people out there. And yeah, you can be stupid, but why in this case? Like, what's the goal? Oh, they're just trying to keep us all inside. Why? So they can walk around the street naked? Like, what's the end goal here to controlling us? I don't get it. So we all gain weight and they can sell us nutraceuticals to help us lose weight? I've lost 30 pounds since New Year's. I'm sorry. I foiled the plan for them. I don't get it. What's the end game here? If you're going to have a conspiracy theory, there are two things that could possibly justify the conspiracy theory. Money or an end goal. This has neither. There's no end goal to making people stay inside. None.
Today,
Babe, congratulations on losing weight.
a jury in Minnesota found former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all counts in the murder of George Floyd last May. It was a murder in the full light of day, and it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see. The systemic racism the Vice President just referred to. The systemic racism is a stain on our nation's soul. The knee on the neck of justice for Black Americans. Profound fear and trauma. The pain, the exhaustion that Black and brown Americans experience every single day. The murder of George Floyd launched a summer of protest we hadn't seen since the civil rights era in the 60s. Protests that unified people of every race and generation in peace and with purpose to say enough, enough, enough of the senseless killings. Today's verdict is a step forward. I just spoke with the governor of Minnesota, who thanked me for the close work with his team. I also spoke with George Floyd's family again, a remarkable family of extraordinary courage. Nothing can ever bring their brother, their father back. But this can be a giant step forward in the march toward justice in America. Let's also be clear that such a verdict is also much too rare. For so many people, it seems like it took a unique and extraordinary convergence of factors. A brave young woman with a smartphone camera, a crowd that was traumatized witnesses, a murder that lasts almost 10 minutes in broad daylight for ultimately the whole world to see. Officers standing up and testifying against a fellow officer instead of just closing ranks, which should be commended. A jury who heard the evidence carried out their civic duty in the midst of an extraordinary moment, under extraordinary pressure. For so many, it feels like it took all of that for the judicial system to deliver a just basic accountability. We saw how traumatic and exhausting just watching the trial was for so many people. Think about it, those of you who are listening. Think about how traumatic it was for you. You weren't there. You didn't know any of the people. But it was difficult, especially for the witnesses who had to relive that day. It's a trauma. On top of the fear so many people of color live with every day when they go to sleep at night and pray for the safety of themselves and their loved ones. Again, as we saw in this trial from the fellow police officers who testified, most men and women who wear the badge serve their communities honorably. But those few who fail to meet that standard must be held accountable, and they were today. One was. No one should be above the law. And today's verdict sends that message. But it's not enough. We can't stop here. In order to deliver real change and reform, we can and we must do more to reduce the likelihood that tragedies like this will ever happen and occur again. To ensure that Black and brown people, or anyone, so they don't fear the interactions with law enforcement, that they don't have to wake up knowing that they can lose their very life in the course of just living their life. They don't have to worry about whether their sons or daughters will come home after a grocery store run, or just walking down the street, or driving their car, or playing in the park, or just sleeping at home. And this takes acknowledging and confronting head-on systemic racism and the racial disparities that exist in policing and in our criminal justice system more broadly. You know, state and local government and law enforcement needs to step up, but so does the federal government. That's why I've appointed the leadership of the Justice Department that I have, that is fully committed to restoring trust between law enforcement and the community they are sworn to serve and protect. I have complete confidence in the Attorney General, General Garland's leadership and commitment. I've also nominated two key Justice Department nominees, Vanita Gupta and Kristen Clark, who are eminently qualified, highly respected lawyers who have spent their entire careers fighting to advance racial equity and justice. Vanita and Kristen have the experience and the skill necessary to advance our administration's priorities to root out unconstitutional policing and reform our criminal justice system, and they deserve to be confirmed. We also need Congress to act. George Floyd was murdered almost a year ago. There's meaningful police reform legislation in his name. You just heard the Vice President speak of it. She helped write it. Legislation to tackle systemic misconduct in police departments, to restore trust between law enforcement and the people they're entrusted to serve and protect. But it shouldn't take a whole year to get this done. In my conversations with the Floyd family, I spoke with them again today, I assure them we're going to continue to fight for the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act so I can sign into law as quickly as possible. There's more to do. Finally, it's the work we do every day to change hearts and minds as well as laws and policies. That's the work we have to do. Only then will full justice and full equality be delivered to all Americans. And that's what I just discussed with the Floyd family. The guilty verdict does not bring back George. But through the family's pain, they're finding purpose. So George's legacy will not be just about his death, but about what we must do in his memory. I also spoke to Gianna, George's young daughter, again. When I met her last year, I've said this before, at George's funeral, I told her how brave I thought she was. And I sort of knelt down to hold her hand. I said, Daddy's looking down on you. He's so proud. She said to me then, I'll never forget it, Daddy changed the world. I told her this afternoon, Daddy did change the world. Let that be his legacy, a legacy of peace, not violence, of justice. Peaceful expression of that legacy are inevitable and appropriate, but violent protest is not. And there are those who will seek to exploit the raw emotions of the moment, agitators and extremists who have no interest in social justice.
Violent protest is not appropriate. This is what Biden just said. He'll be blamed for not saying enough. Has anyone been watching the news currently around the country? Are there any riots happening? Are people celebrating and busting windows? Is anything going on out there? I'm just catching up on Tucker on the other screen here. There's some stuff on Tucker that happens.
Who seek to carry out violence, destroy property, fan the flames of hate and division, who do everything in their power to stop this country's march toward racial justice. We can't let them succeed. This is a time for this country to come together, to unite as Americans. There can never be any safe harbor for hate in America. I've said it many times. The battle for soul of this nation has been a constant push and pull for more than 240 years. A tug of war between the American ideal that we're all created equal and the harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart. At our best, the American ideal wins out. So we can't leave this moment or look away thinking our work is done. We have to look at it, we have to look as we did for those 9 minutes and 29 seconds. We have to listen. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Those are George Floyd's last words. We can't let those words die with him. We have to keep hearing those words. We must not turn away. We can't turn away.
much more of a polar opposite from the former guy can you get than this man? We cannot let those words die with him. We can't. We can't.
We have a chance to begin to change the trajectory in this country. It's my hope and prayer that we live up to the legacy. May God bless you, but may God bless George Floyd and his family. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, he didn't say the United States. He doesn't want to bless the United States. That's the liberal America that Joe Biden wants. Here's Tucker Carlson from earlier tonight. Apparently this interview doesn't go well. Let's find out what the fuss is all about. I haven't seen it.
Sheriff with the New York City Sheriff's Department. He joins us with his perspective on what this means for law enforcement. And Kevin, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Kevin? Is his name Kevin? Let's go back and make sure here. Could be Kevin. I don't recognize this guy, but let's find out.
I appreciate your covering it, Shelby. Shelby Talcott of the Daily Caller. Thank you. Ed Gavin is a former deputy sheriff with the New York City Sheriff's
No, it's Ed Gavin. Never mind.
Department. He joins us with his perspective on what this means for law enforcement. And Gavin,
What are you doing, Gavin? What are you looking at?
and thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Does he have judges there as well?
Who's going to become a cop going forward, do you think?
Well, I think people will still become police officers.
Oh, that didn't go well. The response they're looking for, and the responses they get from other guests are, oh, no one's going to want to be a police officer. We're going to have no police in this country. Of course, if we do have police, the Democrats are going to chase them away. The radical liberal left wants us all to die with no police officers.
It's this really is a learning experience for everyone. Let's face it, what we saw in that video was pure savagery. I mean, the documentary evidence showed the police officer putting his knee on the perpetrator's neck while he was
This is a former police officer, by the way, saying this.
rear cuffed and his stomach was on the ground, causing positional asphyxia. So what I'd like to see, Tucker, is I'd like to see more training for police. I'd like to see the police trained as EMTs, like in the fire department. For example, in the New York City Fire Department, we have firefighters that are EMTs. But who gets to the scene first in most of these situations? It's the police. So in reviewing the tape, what I noticed was that the police officer removed the subject, Mr. Floyd, from his vehicle, and he was able to handcuff him, and then he was able to seat him on the ground, and he was handcuffed. At that point, they should have left him there. You know, there was no reason to move him, and obviously, Mr. Floyd was he was emotionally disturbed. And at that point, you may want to say, "Hey, Mr. Floyd, let me take your pulse." Things of this nature, and we have to change the way we deal with people. Now, I've used I've used force on literally over 500 people in my 21-year career in the New York City Department of Correction and in the New York City Sheriff's Department. I've never had anybody go unconscious. And, you know, that was clearly an excessive, unjustified use of force. I think the verdict was just. I think we had documentary evidence, we had testimonial evidence, and, you know, it was an open and shut case. But moving forward, what we need to do, in my opinion.
This is not, I heard the beginning of Tucker's show. This has no semblance of the beginning of Tucker's show at this point. That the verdict was unfair. This is all the liberal left. That we don't have a country anymore. The radicals want to tear down the country, burn it all down, and start all over again with their own utopia. It's not what the police officer is saying right now.
We need to have.
How about enforce the law? Okay, do we need to do that? So hold on, wait. So wait, slow down. Do we enforce the law? Like,
slow down. Tucker can't keep up. Wait. Slow down. Slow down. You're saying that the video showed savagery and the police officers need more training? Whoa.
let's say people are going through the windows of Macy's and the cops are just standing there. Do they
What? Why? Why is this a situation?
resign
No,
because
we always
No.
obviously their honor is being violated, but they're not doing anything about it? When do they start doing something about it and protecting everyone else, not just George Floyd?
No. What I want
Protecting George Floyd? Who does he think protected George Floyd?
want people to protect. I want the police to protect people. But
Yes.
when specifically what we're dealing with a person in custody who was handcuffed and he was subdued.
Right.
At that point, we have to take a different tact. And one of the things I just want to suggest,
Well,
Tucker,
I'm
there's
totally
a
willing
thing.
to believe that. Yep.
No, I'm totally willing to believe that. Well, I mean, you've seen the video.
Yeah, the U.S.
By the way, earlier in this show, he was not totally willing to believe that.
Department of
We'll watch that. I want to verify. Trust me, but verify me.
Justice came out with a position paper on positional asphyxia and sudden death. It was published in 1995 and again in 1998. I think every law enforcement officer should read that. It should be read at roll calls. Because what it does, it talks about the physiology of a struggle. Now, like I said, Mr. Floyd was brought under control. What should have happened at that point is EMS should have been summoned and he should have been placed in an ambulance. And a supervisor should have been called to the scene. I just think that it was excessive and it shouldn't happen. And what I'd like to say,
the guy who did it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country.
Okay. Yes, but let the guy who says we need more police training maybe have a talk. But sure, you worry about the rest of the country. The whole country's going to burn down. Here we go.
Country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern.
What the hell did I just see? Does Tucker need medical assistance? Is that... Let's go back.
was excessive and it shouldn't happen. And what I'd like to say,
the guy who did it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern. But I appreciate.
Should we be calling someone? I have watched a lot of Tucker Carlson in my life. What? Is it me, guys? Or was that someone who needs to have a straitjacket put on and he can go visit a nice soft round room for a while? One more time. I'm trying to... What's the lead up to this? I'm worried about the rest of the country, which, let's be honest, is all boarded up right now. And I'm not exaggerating. Hold on. Not currently boarded up here. I traveled... actually, I know exactly how far I went today. I went 80 miles throughout Los Angeles, Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, Sherman Oaks, whatever other cities are in there as well. I didn't see anything that was boarded up. This is a largely minority community we're talking about me driving through today. Nothing boarded up. Nothing's boarded. Let's watch it again.
It was excessive and it shouldn't happen. And what I'd like to say...
It was excessive. Yeah, well, what I'm worried about is... Here we go. Just watch. See if there's something in there that maybe we're missing. There's a joke. Is there a pun? Is there something so clever and innuendo-ish that we are not seeing it?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern. But I appreciate you coming on. Ed Gavin, thank you. Nope, done. Thank you.
He just cuts it off. Yeah, well, I'm kind of worried about the rest of the country, which, in case you haven't noticed, in my head, is all boarded up right now. No, we're done. We're done. What the fuck was that? That face says it all. I didn't get my way. My window's open. The neighbors are probably calling assistance right now. There's a lunatic in there. Nope, I'm done. I'm done. Wow.
The rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern. But I appreciate you coming on. Ed Gavin, thank you. Nope, done. Thank you. Heather McDonald is the...
Who's he talking to? Who is he talking to? Nope, done. Ed Gavin, thank you. Nope, done. Thank you. What is happening? This is funny to your people who celebrate 420. That must be what Tucker is doing right now, because that was not a rational human being. Yeah, every once in a while, Tucker, who is a millionaire owned by billionaires, is completely owned by a random Dutch historian. In this case, a former union leader with the New York City Police Department. Wow. Did they not screen the guest at all? The guest held up the... Okay, so this is positional asphyxia. Okay, this is... We don't want to put people on their stomachs and then pressure their chests because they will die. That was published in 1995, 1990. Says Tucker. Nope, done. No more. Nope. Can't have him on here. Next up on Tucker, cancel culture. It is wrong for us to silence the voice of people with whom we disagree. Nope, I'm done.
The author of The War on Cops, she joins us with reaction. Heather McDonald, I'm concerned.
Okay, The War on Cops, part of that is probably people saying that because of police inaction, the rest of the country is boarded up. You gotta pick a lane there, Tucker. The police are being repressed. They can't get a fair trial anywhere in this country because of Black Lives Matter, but it's because of police inaction that the country is on fire. It is not. Ugh. Manic Mike Lindell got punked earlier today. I think that was yesterday. But yeah, we watched that, Liberty. Let's go back because let's contrast that with what we saw earlier. He had somebody on earlier. Here we go.
By Miranda Devine of the New York Post.
Miranda Devine, she's a YouTube star.
Miranda, thanks so much for coming on. Give us the context.
I think she sings, if I'm correct. Todd Stepler says he has the most punchable face of all time. I had a question for you, Todd. We were talking about something earlier. Something to do with cops. Why would I have a question for you about cops? I think that's the question. Todd, why would I have a question for you about cops? No, something that would fall into your area of expertise, which apparently involves face punching. I do need a banana. Something about boarded up windows. I don't remember, but I had a question for you.
Around this decision. The jury was not sequestered, so they were able to see what was happening in the broader...
Okay. Was the jury sequestered or not? Because here he says the jury was not sequestered, and then later in the same show, several people say that the jury was sequestered, and he never argues with them. They were sequestered, right? That is what I read. That is what the judge said, right? Let's settle it. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's see. Jury sequestered Derek Chauvin. It came up immediately. What happens? Murder trial. What happens now? What happens now? On Fox News. What happens now that jurors in Derek Chauvin's murder trial are sequestered? They are sequestered. Okay, and of course it's about Maxine Waters inciting riots that never happened. Big difference there between, hey, you guys all got to go fight like hell or you're not going to have a country anymore, and a subsequent riot, and her saying, Maxine Waters saying, we need to get more confrontational. By the way, I confront people all day long. I confront people in the chat. I confront people on the phone. I confront people who say stupid things. I'm very confrontational. I have never burned someone's house down. I have never murdered somebody and been convicted. But that's confrontation. Confrontation is a wide open word. But here's the thing. The president said fight like hell, and then they did. Maxine Waters said get more confrontational, which the right has interpreted as let's have a riot, and they didn't. Right, they're sequestered for the deliberation, not for the trial itself. Yes. So they were sequestered as of yesterday so that nothing in the media could influence them, so that when Joe Biden said, I hope this comes to the right outcome, he didn't say what that was, by the way. They didn't hear it. And so when Joe Biden said, I wouldn't say that unless the jury was sequestered, it's because the jury was sequestered. Let's go back to Tucker. Hold on.
Why can't we? To help us answer those questions, we're joined first tonight by Miranda Devine of the New York Post. Miranda, thanks so much for coming on. Give us the context around this decision. The jury was not sequestered, so they were able to see what was happening in the broader American society. What did they see?
They were sequestered for the deliberation.
Well, you'd hope that the jury did the right thing and came to the correct verdict.
Yes.
But
I do
there
hope
was
that.
an enormous
Yeah, so we do hope that, right? You would hope that.
amount of pressure on them. A lot of them live in the area, and there were riots, there was violence for days throughout the trial. There was a severed pig's head left on the doorstep of what was presumed to be, and wasn't, the house of one of the defense witnesses.
Not the jury, not a member of the jury.
There is so much menace and intimidation around that trial that even the president today, before the jury came back, said that he was praying for the right verdict. You had...
Right, but they were sequestered today when the president said that.
members of Congress like Maxine Waters weighing in and saying that if the verdict wasn't a guilty verdict, that there should be more confrontation by the mob. In other words, violence.
No, those are other words. Those are your words, not her words. And when she was asked about it, she of course said, no, I don't want any violence.
Looting.
But that's not an exact quote. I am using other words. But my other words make sense.
Arson. It's what this country has put up with for a year. And then you had the president.
She did say, Maxine Waters did explain that night when she was dressed like that with the super goggles on, she did say what she thought the right thing was. She did say what she was talking about in terms of confrontation, which I'm amazed I have not seen anyone else post anywhere. I think everyone sort of missed this. But I'll show it to you. Give me a moment here, because this was earlier in the day that I posted this. And I'll get to it. One moment, please. Here, I replied to Senator Ted Cruz earlier today. This is Maxine Waters. This is Maxine Waters, who said we need to get more confrontational if it's not a guilty verdict. Now, I have my own issues with Maxine Waters. I'm not a fan at all. Personal privilege, I would rather not have her in Congress. I think she's detrimental to the cause. But this is her explaining what she's talking about. Tell me if this is wrong. Tell me if she's inciting violence when she says this.
How to get power and how to be in control.
How to get the power and how to be in control.
The way to get in control is not to allow them to win. You've got to register, and you've got to vote, and you've got to take the power.
You've got to register, and you've got to vote, and you've got to take the power. I'm not sure which part of that is burning down buildings, but that's what Fox heard. And I have not seen this clip on any right-wing sites and or Fox. They're not showing it for some reason.
tonight even praise past rioting, the summer of protest, he called it, which he claimed was somehow a unifying thing for the country. I mean, there was $2 billion worth of property damage just to start with. Cities were on fire. A dozen people were killed. There's nothing unifying about that. So you have this atmosphere of fear and intimidation. And really, the verdict in this trial, the Derek Chauvin trial, could have been really unifying for the country, because we can all rally around our justice system and the jury trial and trust it and say that above all else, justice is blind and that somebody who did the wrong thing was punished. But unfortunately, because of all this external pressure...
Wait, hold on.
And the jury... You have this atmosphere of fear and intimidation, and really the verdict in this trial, the Derek Chauvin trial, could have been really unifying for the country, because we can all rally around our justice system and the jury trial and trust it and say that above all else, justice is blind and that somebody who did the wrong thing was punished. But
that's what happened. Somebody who did the wrong thing was punished. I'm not sure why she's upset. What she wanted to happen is what happened.
Unfortunately, because of all this external pressure on that trial, on the judge, on the witnesses, and on the jurors, who are just ordinary men and women.
97% of protests were peaceful.
We can't really unify around it, because there is so...
That's according to two studies, one out of Harvard, another one out of, I want to say Cambridge, but that's not correct.
So much concern. I mean, the fact that we all tonight are relieved that there was a guilty verdict selfishly, because it means our own cities won't be put on fire and won't be looted, is...
I'm satisfied and happy that a guilty verdict was reached, because he killed a man. My city's not getting brighted or looted or burned.
Is a pretty unhealthy situation.
The intimidation came from the president that they didn't see. That's where the intimidation was. Again, why? Why defend this man? How much more obvious do you have to be? And I don't know the exact time frame. Someone else knows that. A Q study, yes. Quinnipiac, which for some reason I'm having trouble saying today and every day. Why defend Derek Chauvin? Why be on his side? Of course, you've got an agenda. In order to get on the Tucker Show, you have to hate the left and tell, oh, the left is controlling and the puppets and the dead and this. Oh, it's just no matter what happens, somehow the left is bad, and the riots and the burning, and you got to be scared, and you got to keep watching this show, and you got to vote Republican or you're all going to die. I get that part of it, but there's so much more out there for you to misinterpret. America saw this man murder another man. And again, I don't know the timeline, but at some point they took his pulse and he didn't have a pulse, and they stayed on him. And the paramedics got there and they stayed on him. They continued to crush his lifeless body.
To be in, and I don't know where you go from this, and you certainly don't have a president who...
What? Where do we have to go? I know that he's going to jail. I don't know where we go from this. Well, there was a trial, and the bad guy got convicted. But Tucker sure looks concerned.
Pours more gasoline on the fire and describes this country as being systemically racist. He buys into that destructive narrative. And for a country of all countries in the world had a civil war to end slavery.
Wait, why did we have that civil war? Because we had slavery. Right. Yeah, that's part of the system. The whole slavery thing, The whole taking away the lands from the Native Americans, the whole 1924s, the Chinese Exclusion Acts, all the way up to building the wall to keep the brown people out. No wall on the Canadian border where the white people live. Lots of wall on the southern border. All of that. That's part of the system, lady.
Has had a civil rights movement that has had the most harmonious multiracial country in the world to be blackguarding it and defaming
She has never been to Canada.
It like this for no reason is just unbecoming for a president, I'll say that.
Well, it's dangerous. I wonder, though, and you've raised so many...
Oh, it's dangerous. Biden's being dangerous. I'm not sure why, but he is. Just like I'm harmful.
Deep questions.
February 5th is when YouTube demonetized me. We are now at 420. 2 months and 15 days. I have not been able to make any money on YouTube, even though they're showing ads before my videos.
I think we'll have a lot of time to address in coming weeks. But just as a practical matter, now that this decision is public and we know the officer in the George Floyd case convicted on all 3 counts, why should the rest of us put up with a single day more of rioting, looting, burning, killing?
Whoa, 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 whoa. When were any of us putting up with rioting, burning, killing, and looting? When? Because I have never put up with that. At all. I don't think anybody does.
And that's a sincere question.
Well, it's a dumb question because no one puts up with it. We have a police force and we have the National Guard, and people are tried and convicted of rioting, murdering, pillaging, painting, decomposing, calligraphying.
Why should the country put up with this at all?
The country's not at all.
Ever again.
It never has.
You're right. I mean, we shouldn't, but you listen.
Is he talking about the insurrection? He's talking about the rebellion. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the drivel war. He must.
To the activists immediately after the verdict, they're on MSNBC and out in the street, and they're saying, this isn't enough. This is not justice. We don't care.
I did not see anyone say that this is not justice. Granted, I was playing tennis at the time of the verdict. And I tried to watch some of the immediate reaction on my way home, to catch up with things, etc. I didn't see anyone saying that this was not justice. That's what she just said.
You're right. I mean, we shouldn't, but you listen to the activists immediately after the verdict. They're on MSNBC and out in the street, and they're saying, this isn't enough. This is not justice.
Has anyone seen anyone saying this is not justice?
We don't care. We're not going to stop until we get our justice, whatever that is. You know, they don't really define what it is. I mean, you can lock cops up. You can. They want to abolish the police.
Is she talking about what Kamala said? Because that's not what Kamala said.
Force. But even if we did that, that still wouldn't be enough. They are revolutionaries. What they want to do is break this country down to nothing and rebuild their own utopia.
Well, honestly, we could do without the Senate, right? Completely undemocratic. The fact that we're worried about D.C. becoming a state because they would get 2 senators when they have more population than Wyoming that has 2 senators, like that. The fact that we have a North and South Dakota when we don't need any Dakotas.
They can only do that with the passive consent of the population. I mean, the number of people pushing for...
They can't... That means nothing.
...revolution. It doesn't break down along racial lines, by the way. It is a multi-racial coalition of lunatics.
He's absolutely right. There are quite a few black Trump supporters. He's talking about a revolution, a usurpation of the government of the United States. That just happened in January. And it wasn't Black Lives Matter.
Most people of all...
But they were loons. He's absolutely right. Tucker's right about that.
All backgrounds despise this. They want to raise their families and go to work. This is only happening because they're allowing it to happen by their passive stance on it. How long will that continue, do you imagine?
But A, it's not happening. B, there's no passive stance on it because it's not happening.
Well, look, I think Joe Biden and the Democrats have done a very good job of demonising the conservative half of the country, and January 6th,
It's not half.
the Capitol riot just played into their hands.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
And the media is, of
Because it happened.
course, a huge part of this, exaggerating and demonising people who don't go along with their fake narratives. I think while the media continues to be hand in glove with the left and the Democrats, we're in a really parlous state. Half the country just doesn't trust our institutions anymore, and the other half is trying to destroy them.
I think that's nicely put.
That's not what's happening at all.
Sad, but it's true, unfortunately. Miranda Devine, thanks so much.
Here's the thing about all those polls, like, do you approve of Congress? Do you approve of the media? Well, only 18% of Americans trust the media, whatever the number is. It's because when you're asked that question, wait, all media? Or specifically, do you trust CNN? You're going to have a different score than you are if you trust all media, because those who don't trust Fox News are going to say, like, no, I don't trust Fox News. I don't trust the media. Those who don't trust CNN are going to say, no, I don't trust the media. So you end up with a... But people do trust some media. So that 18% or whatever the number is that you've last seen in your lifetime, it's nonsense. It's a loaded question.
For that context.
Thanks, Tucker.
So there was a political context around this trial. Politics shouldn't have any effect on any trial.
It didn't. There were no effects by anyone in the trial. Let's jump forward here. You know what? You guys can watch Candace Owen on your own. She's a lunatic. Let's see who else is here. Oh, I don't know who this lady is, but let's hear what she has to say a little bit. Actually, I'm done with Tucker. Let's not even listen to Tucker. Let's go to Hannity. And then we'll wrap it up here because it's almost 9 o'clock and I am supposed to watch a movie with Kevin Lee Daughter, so we'll do that.
A Fox News alert. Minneapolis, other cities, New York City, preparing for potential unrest at this hour. This despite a jury finding former police officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all charges, second-degree murder, third-degree.
Well, they should be preparing. Like after your team wins the Super Bowl, there's a riot. After your team wins the NBA championship, there's a riot. They rioted in Vancouver. Granted, the Canucks lost. But they rioted in Vancouver, Canada. Of course they should be preparing.
Murder.
What movie? I think she wants to watch like Godzilla or something.
And second-degree.
I just want to do the elliptical and I don't care what's on the TV.
Manslaughter in the horrific death of George Floyd. Chauvin's bail has now been revoked. He is in jail tonight with sentencing to take place 8 weeks from now. And tonight he is facing the likelihood of decades behind bars. The video evidence in this case, it was substantial, it was overwhelming, and it was appalling. The jury arrived with their verdict less than 24 hours after being handed the case. Not a single question asked by the jury to the judge. For 9 minutes and 29 seconds, then Officer Chauvin shoved his knee into the neck of George Floyd, who was handcuffed and on the ground. And Chauvin continued to apply pressure to Floyd's neck. As we have discussed on this program, the most vulnerable part of the human anatomy, even after Floyd was handcuffed, saying he can't breathe and fully complying with the police. The crowd that had gathered urged the officer to please stop. The knee stayed on George Floyd's neck even after he went unconscious, and the chief of police testified at this trial, this is not what officers are trained to do.
Okay, so far what he said seems to be in line with reality. I don't know what his game is here.
So let me be clear. This is in no way an indictment of all police officers. This is a guilty.
Right. No one's saying that it's all police officers.
Verdict for one police officer. Everywhere, unlike others, on this program, we do make the distinction. We talk about the 99% of good.
Well, that's just what Joe Biden said as well. We just watched Joe Biden say that.
Police officers.
I mean, why would he know what Joe Biden said? It's not his job to monitor what Joe Biden says.
Officers that risk their lives daily to protect and serve their communities. They have a very hard job, and it's getting harder every day. We made that distinction often when we exposed the...
Right, but this police officer murdered someone. Everybody knows that it's tough to be a police officer. Otherwise, we'd all be doing it.
Deep state, corruption at the highest levels of the FBI, the 1%, not the 99% that do their jobs honorably in the FBI. This trial was about the destructive and unlawful actions of one person. And now the jury has spoken, but, well, not everyone in the mob and the media is particularly happy. MSDNC contributor, one there, is not happy. According to him, a guilty verdict on every charge just isn't enough. Take a look.
I actually always thought that he would be found guilty because it's sort of a cultural makeup call. But I'm not happy. I'm not pleased. I don't have any sense of satisfaction. I don't think this is a system working. I don't think this is a good thing. This is not the system working. This is a makeup call. This is the justice system trying to say that, hey, this is one bad apple, because that's how this is going to be interpreted.
A valid opinion. There have been so many bad calls that this could, in fact, be looked at as a makeup call. I don't agree with that. This really was a turning point in this country's history. I'll say this, because we don't know the history moving forward. This has the potential. We had police officer after training officer, after captain, after supervisor come out and say, yeah, this cop did bad things. That's not what we're supposed to do. To the police officers that we just watched on Tucker, say, yeah, that is not, he killed him. We usually don't get that in trials with police officers. They stick together. This was finally an act that was caught on videotape that was so brutal that didn't happen.
It's going to be this one bad apple. He got in trouble. Yay, blah, blah, blah.
Reckless, irresponsible rhetoric, but predictable. The jury...
How is it irresponsible? Are people rioting tonight because they watched this guy on MSDNC? All right. Good night, LP. Sleep well.
Found that the officer was guilty on every single charge. According to Johnson, only a radical reform will bring about true justice.
Okay, but what about the other Johnson?
Radical reform, defund the police, dismantle the entire police, dismantle our entire system. How do you think that's going to work out in the end? Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, the leader of the, quote, squad, she agrees. She would...
Quote, squad?
Also like to use Floyd's death to achieve her radical ideas, like disarming police during traffic stops. Well, somebody maybe please, last week, the tape was released of a, quote, routine traffic stop, and that New Mexico officer...
Cops need to have guns during traffic stops in this country. There are way too many guns, and police officers get killed in traffic stops. So no, stupid idea.
Was shot dead. Maybe send it to the Congresswoman. Take a look.
It's not justice. And I'll explain to you why it's not justice. It's not justice because justice is George Floyd going home tonight to be with his family.
I agree. This is what I'm saying. There's no good here. That's the wrong thing to say. There's no remedy here. What you're going for in a court of law is remedy. How do you fix this? How do you make that person whole again? In a murder trial, you can't. Okay. George Floyd is dead. Derek Chauvin is going to spend the rest of his life in jail, maybe. So everything's even. Carbon neutral, taken care of. That's justice. That's the scales of justice. No. George Floyd is dead.
Justice is Adam Toledo getting tucked in by his mom tonight. Justice is when you're pulled over, there not being a gun that's part of that interaction because you have a headlight out.
Remember Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, a few other radical members of Congress? They're the ones in charge of this Democratic Socialist Party.
They are not. Otherwise, we would have had the $15 minimum wage as part of the package. I mean, they're just not. But Biden really doesn't pay much attention to them at all. There's 4 people on the squad. Remember last year when we had the immigration, sorry, now 2 years ago when they had the big immigration bill and the squad was pushing, AOC was really pushing seriously for no, we can't do that. We have to hold out for more. That's not enough. And the vote was all the Democrats to 4. They are not in control of the Democratic Party at all.
The Green New Deal. It's not Joe Biden. I don't even know if he knows what day it is. He gets blown over by the wind on any given day, we're told. It's certainly not Kamala Harris. Apparently also got blown over by the wind today. And it's not Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer.
What? So did they see the fall on the stoop? Is that what they saw? I don't...
Nancy Pelosi is speaker in name only. Now, Biden...
No, Nancy Pelosi is speaker in name and in deed.
Schumer, Pelosi, they follow the squad's agenda. So it's no surprise.
They don't. They don't at all.
Surprise that just moments ago, Joe Biden echoed Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, vowed for changes for America, but that's not all. Biden also called on Americans to protest with purpose. What did he mean here? Take a look.
I know exactly what he meant. He meant protest with purpose. And then he went on to say, do not be violent. Do not be violent, no matter what. As he said many times before, there is no justification for violence. At any time, in any form. I'm sure he's going to show that part.
The murder of George Floyd launched a summer of protest we hadn't seen since the civil rights era in the 60s. Protests that unified people of every race and generation in peace and with purpose to say enough, enough, enough of this senseless killings.
Protests with a
right
purpose. Is that what happened last summer, Joe? When you didn't have...
Yes, 97% of it was protests with a purpose, yes.
Have the courage to speak out against the violent riots that were taking place on a nightly basis?
He did. He spoke out against the violent riots many times. First with an article that is available online. You can see it. And then in person many times, on television several times, in the debate against Trump. Just in case there's someone out there watching who has not seen it, let me pull it up here. I'll just pull up. I have several Biden violence. Here we go. Here's the debate.
Where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peace? There you go. Right? Many, many times. You want another one? Let me see if I can grab another one here. I'm just looking for the word violence. Here we go.
Which is happening. And by the way, I condemn violence in any form, whether it's looting or whatever it is. And by the way, when I spoke to the family,
whether it's looting or in any form, whatever it is, I condemn violence in any form. What did Hannity just say?
Enough of this senseless killings.
Protests with a purpose. Is that what happened last summer, Joe? When you didn't have the courage to speak out against the violent riots that were taking place on a nightly basis all over the country?
He did. He had all the courage he needed to do it, and he did it. Yeah, he was a private citizen, and he also spoke out against the violence in any form. In any form. All right, kids. That's enough. I don't know how much more I can disprove Hannity. I don't know. The first 3 minutes were so good, Sean. You had something going there. Derek Chauvin murdered a man, and now he's going to jail. Move on. Talk about something else, because what you're saying right now is complete bullshit. All right, kiddies. I'm going to go, let's see, it's just past 9 o'clock, and I said I'd be done at 9, so I better get going. I'm going to go spend some quality time riding the elliptical, not with my daughter. Well, maybe we have 2 ellipticals together. So I might ride on one and she might ride on the other, and we're going to watch Godzilla, and then he's versus King Kong, and we'll have a good time. So everybody be safe tonight. Try not to riot. Can I just say that I condone violence in all its forms? What did I say? No, that's what I said. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, all violence. Go out there and do it. No, I voted for Joe Biden. I want this country to burn to the ground. Do you guys not realize? Wow. Huh. Man. I don't pay attention to what Joe Biden says. All I know is what the right wing tells me I want. And that's what I want. By the way, borders are open, so come on up. Hey, if you're watching in El Salvador, does anybody know Spanish? Can someone just do the Spanish for me? Where I just invite everybody up because the borders are open? Come on up. Criminals especially. Rapists. We're really, really short on rapists in the United States. The borders are open. Come on up. Okay, someone write that out for me in Spanish, and you know what? I don't have the time. I'm going to watch King Kong, guys. Be good. Take care of each other. Love you. Bye-bye.